I couldn't fall asleep this morning. I eventually fell asleep at 3:30 and I had to wake up 3 hours later at 6:30 because I needed to go to school, and I don't know if it's because of the Corey Feldman album or is it because of this movie. Hey, merde! What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, and today I'm gonna do a movie review on Climax. Yeah, Climax by Gaspar Noé. So, oh my gosh. So, Gaspar Noé is an Argentinian French director who had directed some really disturbing, violent, trippy, artsy movies like Irreversible, I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything, and Enter the Void. And it's no surprise that this movie would be equally as disturbing, as violent, as trippy, and disorienting. And this is essentially French extremism. It's bold, it explores some really explicit and adult themes, it's disturbing sometimes, and it's very trippy and contemporary artsy. And this movie is essentially a 1 hour and 30-minute long experience movie about 24 dancers in I guess in an abandoned place, locked up in there, and they are rehearsing for the final time, and then they were drinking sangria. Everybody were celebrating, and apparently somebody spiked the sangria with LSD, and everyone just went absolutely insane. Everyone just went absolutely crazy, and that is just an understatement. Like it like this movie is one of the most anxiety inducing films I've ever watched, because once the drug kicks in, people are getting fucked, getting raped, people are getting beat up, people throwing up and pissing on the ground, things are set on fire, people are legitimately getting hurt, and nobody is caring because they're all high. So, yep, after watching this movie, I am 100% sure that I'll never, ever try acid. Seems like a terrible idea. Um, a lot of people do not like this movie because of its lack of plot. And yes, I think a plot is very important in a movie. However, this movie is rather more like an experience for me. So the lack of plot in this movie doesn't necessarily make this movie bad for me. It's just that this movie isn't as great or as memorable for me. But it's still very, very memorable because of its extremely disturbing second half. It's just absolutely intense. At the beginning of the movie, we are shown, like for 10 minutes, we are shown different snippets of interviews with all 24 of the dancers, and they're all really passionate dancers, full of blood, full of energy, full of commitment. They would do anything to dance well and to be good at dancing. So yeah, right at the beginning of the movie, it's already kind of foreshadowed that these adolescents, they're gonna go kind of crazy because they are already secretly crazy before getting drugged, and when they get drugged, the craziness exhibits itself. And then after that, we get, I think, another 10 minutes of dancing, which is basically the opening scene of the movie, and it's stunning. The choreography is amazing. This type of dance is really trippy. Everybody's just spinny. Like, I'm not a huge dancing person, so I'm not like familiar with dances, but this kind of dance is very spinny, very sensual, very fast and trippy and entrancing. And I mean, hats off to the choreographer and for the dancers and the actors in the movie. They really put in a lot of work, especially when you consider the fact that there are so many long takes in the movie. The first scene is already around like 20 minutes long, 20 minutes uncut, and including the dance and then several dialogues and several camera movements. Like, they have to rehearse it for so many times. And then later on in the movie, we get a 42-minute long take, which is absolutely insane. However, I do suspect that it's not really 42 minutes long, because there are a couple of moments in that long take where it's just blackout. And I think there's a cut hidden in those two spots. But other than that, still really, really impressive work. Amazing cinematography as well. Very trippy, disorienting. The camera is I want to say sometimes it's handheld, sometimes it's with a crane, I think, but it's really hard to see the transition between the crane, or more like the stable camera, and the handheld camera parts. So yeah, after the very stunning dancing in the opening scene, we get a series of medium shots of just small groups of dancers. They just kind of talk to each other, and they begin to talk shit behind each other's backs, laughing at one another, talking about very explicit stuff, and you can already feel the tension building. However, it's kind of dragged, and if you don't have the patience, maybe you'll feel kind of bored. And then in the middle of the movie, the opening credits happen right in the middle, because the entire first half of the movie is basically the build up. And then once the movie hits the second half, the anxiety level just goes off the roof. People started to drink the sangria, and they started to realize that something's wrong with the sangria. Somebody had drugged the sangria, and then they started to point fingers like, oh, maybe it's you. Maybe you were the one who drugged the sangria. And so at the end, they kind of pointed the finger at one particular person for no reason at all. And they just threw the person out of that building and let him freeze in the cold, which means he's dead. Yeah, spoiler alert, by the way. And then that is only the beginning. There are a series of events that take place after. We got this woman who is secretly pregnant, and because of that, she didn't drink any of the sangria, so people started to suspect that maybe she is really the person who spiked the sangria. So, when you're pregnant, you get emotionally unstable. And because people started to point fingers at her, and they thought that she spiked the sangria, and because these people are high, so these people kept on yelling at her and telling her to kill herself, and she's pregnant, and they didn't believe her, and she had a knife in her hands, and I don't even want to describe what happened. Just go watch it yourself. And then we have the crackhead. Very brief scene, but because they're high, they also wanted to, you know what, fuck it, let's take more drugs. And they wanted to get more drugs from this crackhead lady, and this crackhead lady kept on denying, saying that she doesn't have any drugs. And then somebody found out that she actually has drugs. And so they fought, and then the crackhead lady was set on fire. And the other person watching her just stood there and laughed. Like, she's on fire. She's fucking on fire. And then there's the kid, which is the most fucked up part of the movie. So there's this mom in the group of dancers. One of them was actually a mom, and she had a kid, and the kid also drank some of that sangria. He's a kid. And that mom also drank some sangria. So both of them were high. So that mom decided to lock that kid up in a room. And that kid was high. And he's locked up in a room, screaming for help. And again, I don't want to tell you what happened after, because I don't want to remind myself what happened. And then just people are just getting beat up everywhere. People are fucking each other. At this point, I have nothing against homosexuals. I have nothing against gays and lesbians. But you can never tell if a person is straight or not in the movie. They're all just making out with one another, and like it's just chaotic. It's just insane. People are screaming everywhere, and people are having sex. There's incest involved in one of the parts of the movie, and then another guy gets beat up, and some other guy draws a swastika on his forehead, and it's just pure nightmare. It's just pure nightmare. Also, Sophia Boutella is plays the main character of the movie, and she's fantastic. She's a great dancer. There's a scene where she basically throws a tantrum, and oh my gosh, it was disturbing. It looks like everybody was demented. They were high, they were crazy, they were insane, and they were dancing. And there's this contortionist just twisting his body in the back, not caring about the world, while there were fire and screams around him. It's just pure nightmare. It's pure nightmare. And then at the last 20 minutes of the movie, everything was upside down. Like, all you can see are people moaning, people crawling on the ground, throwing up, and it's a bunch of human skin, and it's absolutely disturbing. And I'm fucking 16 years old. Why did I watch this movie? I don't know. But yeah, and with the music constantly blasting in the back, the Daft Punk, the Aphex Twin, Soft Cell, but geez, the EDM just makes the experience even more intense, and trippy and disorienting and vomit inducing and stomach churning. And that's all I can say about the movie. It's not great narrative wise. In fact, the the premise for the movie is kinda not that original, but the way the movie is executed. Watching this movie feels like somebody is beating your brain into a pulp, and then squishing it, and then compressing it, and then suffocating it. And this movie, it's more disturbing than it is terrifying or horrifying. And man, I'm saying Climax is a movie worth watching. Maybe mind blowing, more like brain destroying. I'm kind of feeling a strong 8 for the movie, maybe a 9, maybe somewhere in between an 8 or a 9, probably a strong 8. I'll leave it with a strong 8. So have you watched Climax? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate if you hate it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. And also, I should review more artsy movies. Yeah.